Hey everybody, welcome to On the Homefront. I'm John Murphy with the weekly media and culture magazine about the arts and community living, our local economy, and the human environment in our region. We're live on Wednesdays from 5 to 6 here on WILI AM 1400 and 95.3 digital, and we're also on the WILI YouTube channel. I'm happy to announce this week that very soon we're going to be expanding our radio coverage to include sister station WICH Radio in Norwich, which covers Norwich and New London. So with our two stations together, we'll be reaching into all three counties in eastern Connecticut, and we're always happy to have guests here. Whenever you want to get involved, just send an email to john@humanartsmedia.com. We have another busy show today. We're going to talk about poetry in a few minutes. Then we're going to look at a special event happening in Vernon, a very interesting project involving puppetry and the art of Marc Chagall. That's coming up very soon in Vernon. And we'll close out the show with a wonderful arts presentation at Eastern called Unfolding. So that's kind of a preview of where we're going to go today. Sitting next to me, I'm very happy to have another visit with Karen Warinsky. She's a poet, and she is curating a wonderful series at the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret called Poets at Large. So, Karen, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you in the house.
It's nice for you to have asked us. Thank you.
And also on the phone with us is Tony Brown. He's one of the featured poets at their next event coming up on March 23rd. So, Tony, thanks for joining us on the phone today. Appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. I'm looking forward to this.
All right. Well, this series is already well underway, so maybe you could kind of let people know about it who are still finding out, and also how the last one went.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, let me back up and give a little brief history. So 5 years ago, this is our fifth year.
Right.
A couple of us had books come out, and of course that's 2020, and everything is closed. So we said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do to promote these books? I went to Roseland Park because I knew that they had an outdoor amphitheater, and I asked if we could use that. He said you could, but I could also give you the barn because all the weddings were canceled. So we started from there, and we've been at Roseland Park. This will be our fifth year. And then last fall, I got contacted by the owners of the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret, and they asked if we would also do a little series there.
That's Barry Jesserin, right?
That's right, and his
He's
wife,
wonderful.
Maria Sangiolo. And so I said, yeah, we can do that. So the last Saturday night of the month is what we're doing,
right.
7 to 9 p.m. Those are not free events, like Roseland Park is free, but there's an admission charge, and we pay the poets. So there's also an open mic, 5-minute limit. And last time we had 10 people in the open mic, and we had about 35 people in the audience. So it went very well.
That is really encouraging. And it's very nice to throw a few dollars in the hat, because this is how people can drive to get here, because she draws from quite a range. So that's a really nice way to combine economics and having a good time.
Yeah, I've had poets from New Jersey. I've had poets from New York, and also up in Massachusetts, the Greenfield area, Northampton. Yeah. It's kind of a drive. So it's helpful for people, and to pay them for their work, people work hard at their poetry. So
that's the whole thing with the arts. It has to be a complete circuit, and it's being reinvented now in so many different ways about sustainability. And this series is based, I guess, on Worcester-based poets, right?
That is not the whole series, but our next event, which is March 23rd, are Worcester poets. And in particular, and we'll talk to Tony, who's a heavy hitter, but Karen Elizabeth Sharp will be reading. She's the poetry editor at the Worcester Review, and she's the author of a book called Prayer Can Be Anything from Finishing Line Press. And This Late Afternoon is another of her books. She's been in many anthologies. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, and also reading with her will be another wonderful poet, John Hodgen. He's a writer in residence at Assumption University in Worcester, advisory editor for New Letters at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. He's won the AWP Donald Hall Prize for his poetry book Grace. His fifth book, The Lord of Everywhere, is out from Link's House, and he's just a fabulous poet, so I'm excited to have them both coming, and they'll be reading with Tony Brown.
Yeah. So, I just want to mention a website where you can jot it down now and you can follow up with Karen afterwards. There is a Facebook group, Poets at Large, which has lots of information. And also there's a blog, Karen Warinsky Poetry, WordPress.org. And you can connect to her events in her own writing as she curates this series. So, Tony, maybe you could kind of join us here and give us a preview of the spirit and the words you're going to share on the 23rd.
Sure. first off, I'm very excited to be reading with both John and Karen. We've all known each other for a very long time. And I have known Karen Warinsky as long, but, it's a tight-knit group up in Worcester. Everybody sort of knows each other and knows of each other, so we're excited about that. I've been writing forever. I published my first poem when I was 9. Highlights magazine, for those of you who are archivists.
I used to subscribe. I'd wait every month for Highlights.
Yes.
That's right.
Not quite as popular. I was not quite as popular as Goofus and Gallant, but, we're up there, so it worked out all right.
Highlights,
and
wow.
I've been doing poetry readings and performances. I was part of the, I say was because in one way you never get out. I was part of the wonderful world of slam poetry, competitive poetry, and traveled the country and competed and dealt with various readings from here to California, and kind of stepped back from the road several years ago. It was tiring, and I pretty much, stay in the Worcester area. I just did a reading in New York not terribly long ago, but I think it's probably going to be the last one I do for a while, if not ever, because driving back at 1:30 in the morning from New York is just tough.
John, could I just interrupt Tony? Tony, I think that it's hard to to talk about yourself, obviously, and then say all the great things you've done. I know you're humble, but I would like to mention he's a 7-time Pushcart Prize and 2-time Best of the Net nominee, and those are not easy to come by. So, he's very lauded. He's also the winner of the 2022 Stanley Kunitz Medal, which is a big prize that they give to Worcester poets. The Worcester County Poetry Association does that, and so we're not just talking about somebody who just wrote in a notebook for 40 years. This is a highly lauded writer. So, Tony, there you go.
Well, some of the best people are so low-key, you have to find out about them on your own. And then it's a delight. So as a slammer, that was a pretty hot wave for a while. Are folks still slamming as much as they used to?
Absolutely. What's not happening is, and the pandemic pretty much knocked it off.
Yeah.
What is not happening is it was a national touring circuit, and people could literally go to a section of the country and hit reading after reading after reading and get paid and sell books. And, then the competition aspect was, there's lots of still local areas of slam. Manchester, New Hampshire has a weekly slam. Boston has a weekly slam. Worcester has one periodically. There's something going on Monday nights in Worcester. I don't get involved in it that much anymore just because it's not really my cup of tea. But for years, I was very involved in both in organizing and performing at the National Poetry Slam. So.
Well, that brings up something I was talking to Karen about before we went on the air. Maybe I'll drop it in now because you raised it, is the continuity of this from generation to generation. The continuity of what you inherited as a young guy in Highlights and then carrying it forward, right? What's your sense of the strength of the continuity today with all the other distractions and media insanity going on with the simple word on a page?
I actually think poetry is excuse me, I have a minor throat problem. I think poetry is in one of its higher periods right now. First of all, there are lots of books still being published. The second, the web, the net has done an amazing job of making things more accessible to more different types of people.
True.
I think the whole notion of slam really caught the attention. I mean, you had the show on MTV, the Poetry Jam that was out there. You've got entire YouTube channels devoted to it. And in addition, I think about, there's usually, for instance, I'll use Amanda Gorman as an example, the poet who read at Biden's inauguration, Amanda Gorman, was someone who got her start sort of in some of the youth poetry movements in Los Angeles, and she... I think has been more high profile than an awful lot of folks would have imagined even after the inaugural. There's usually an inaugural poet.
Right.
And they come on and they read something and people say, oh, that was lovely, and applaud, and people forget about them. But she has maintained her position, I think. And I think that bodes well for how young people, older folks of all different backgrounds have found a voice through poetry. And, you don't need a lot to do it. You need a voice, something to write with. I also think that, frankly, if you spend any time in slam, you certainly were exposed to, connected to, and influenced by hip-hop. And I think that is an entry point for an awful lot of people. So my feeling is that the state of poetry is actually very strong right now.
I'm glad you mentioned hip-hop, because those early roots in the 70s were very powerful, and it was words in a new way, in a very creative way, and that kind of gave a new energy, right? And that kind of was one of the forks in the road, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It really, and I mean, I have friends all over the country still in slam and poetry, many of whom move effortlessly between those worlds without any trouble whatsoever, and nobody thinks twice about it. So, to me, it's all part of the same stream.
Can I ask Tony? Tony, don't you also think that our current political climate has fostered an environment where poetry can flourish? And there's a lot of people who have a lot to say about what's happening politically, and not just in our country, but around the world.
Global.
Why, whatever do you mean?
How dare you? How dare you raise that question?
And I would also also say, in Amanda Gorman's, not in her defense, but another thing, a layer of her is she's very high-minded. And I put her in a category with Ada Limon, who's the current national poet laureate, and Jane Hirschfield, who just turned 71, a powerful female poet, Age of Aquarius baby. So I just think women are rising. Men have been doing it for a long time too, but I just think we do have a need, a desire, and a hunger for the high-minded thoughts, high-minded goals, and hope. And I find that there's a lot of that in poetry still. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is really nice. I also think of folks like Gil Scott-Heron, who really translated poetry into consciousness and social change and just everyday life being more joyous. He was quite a poet in his own way.
He certainly was. I opened for him once at the old Vienna Coffee House.
Oh, wonderful.
Westboro, years and years and years ago,
That must have been a great experience. He had quite an energy.
He was difficult to talk with, but yes, it was a great experience.
Yeah. He was great in the studio anyway when he got it down to the studio.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I also want to mention that Tony Brown also is involved with Patreon. He has a site there. You can find him there as well. And we're also talking to Karen Warinsky. Before we close, do you want to give us a quick preview for April 27th for the next one after this?
You would ask me. Hang on, I do have that. So that's also going to be another powerful show.
Last Saturday of the month.
Last Saturday of the month, 7 to 9 p.m., $15, which, is a hamburger and fries anymore if you go somewhere. So we have poets Candace Curran and Janet McFadden, and they are presenting what they're calling a volta, which is where they read to each other, not to each other, but they each take turns reading. And these are pieces that are about childhood trauma, abuse, and the healing from it. And so that's, I've seen it done once. It's called Rocking the Boat, so I'm excited to help them present that. And then a newer poet is also going to be with us, and his name is Roger Mabanda, and Mabianda, I believe is how he pronounces it. And I don't have his book name in front of me, but he's going to be reading from his new book. He's a newer guy on the scene. I'm happy to bring in new people. And again, open mic every time we have it. I do like people to sign up ahead of time. You can find my Gmail on my webpage, or you can just scribble this down right now. So Karen.Warinsky, it's a Y on the end, not an I, at gmail.com. It's better and runs smoother when I can sign people up ahead of time. And we have a lot of people who want to read in that open mic at the Vanilla Beans. So
that's really nice.
Sure.
Right. And books are always for sale. Tony, you're going to have your books
of course
there?
Tony doesn't really have books right now, but I'm not. I do things differently. I prefer to put it out there and let people take it from the blog. I do sell ebooks on my Patreon site and stuff, but I'm not really a book guy.
Thumb drives, man. Thumb drives.
Okay. Well, John and Karen will have books, so.
All right. Well, okay, Tony Brown, thank you very much for joining us. I wish you and everyone else a great evening again. Thanks for...
My pleasure. Come see us.
Okay, that's March 23rd at the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret. And also the Facebook group to follow up is Poets at Large. So, Karen, thanks for being here. I wish you a great event, and we'll talk about April later on, okay?
Thank you. Have us again.
You bet. Take care.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take a short commercial break, take a break here, and then we'll come back and talk about the Arts Center East and also a great art program coming up at Eastern. Don't go away. All righty, we're back on the Homefront. We're very happy to have you with us here on WILI. Just want to mention our next segment is about a very special art presentation at the Arts Center East. Usually I have Liz Bologna here, and she talks about their programs up in Vernon, but they have a special event coming up on March 15th and 17th, and that's where we have Alyson Doyle with us. She is finishing her MFA at UCONN. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Blessings. You'll be done in May.
Yes,
right?
May. Graduation.
There you go. She's almost done. And this project is her culmination work, and it's trying to connect her work with the art of Marc Chagall. So you can describe it for us, how you're integrating art history with all kinds of tactile aspects of art and how it all comes together.
Great, thanks. So originally this started out to be a pageant inspired by bread and puppet theater.
Right.
With a little bit of kind of social activism, that kind of bent to it, especially Marc Chagall, famous artist, expressionist, went through a lot of major world events in the 20th century. World War I, World War II, the Russian Revolution. He hit upon almost everything. So there was that aspect to it, and it's basically like a sort of tribute to his resilience, because regardless of what he encountered or saw, he managed to create this really beautiful, romantic, joyous, resilient art. And that's what I was hoping to capture. And a lot of his images floated, so puppets are particularly good for that.
I was about to mention everything was up in the air. There was a very big 60s thing for a while.
Yeah.
It was huge, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that would have been right when he was starting to do his stained glass windows. So, even a little more transcendent in that medium.
Maybe you could take a minute, Alyson, and talk about your MFA and the process you have, what the UCONN program is like for a student coming in, and how you ended up trying to focus on this particular project as a way to culminate all your prior efforts.
Sure. So the program is quite unique. I think it's the last one, maybe the last poetry.
It's puppetry.
Puppetry program.
World famous.
Yeah, in North America.
Yeah.
And it's very, I feel like the graduate program is very unique to the people who are in it, I feel. And in the last 3 years, I've seen some tremendous, tremendous work.
Yeah.
And so varied and different. Obviously, puppetry is just eclectic itself, with many, many styles of puppetry. So, beautiful work comes out of the program every year.
I've had people from Balladon in the past, and one thing that comes up once in a while is in other cultures, puppetry is much more upfront.
Yeah.
And at social gatherings, large-scale puppets, like we have the Boombox Parade here, and that's a wonderful way to kind of have some of that. Some of the puppets in our local parade here are awesome. Right. But you're talking about political movements, people that are in real trouble, making statements when they can't get things in the press.
Sure.
Can you talk about some of that history and how people should realize puppets are, just a lot more than a hand puppet?
Sure. I mean, I think it comes out like large puppets come out of a lot of different traditions of pageantry, and even in local parades and festivals and fairs, people making statements within those genres. But I think bread and puppet is probably the most famous in this area out of Vermont.
That's right.
Started out in the 1960s.
I think Brattleboro area, right? I think so, yeah.
Glover?
Nearby.
Yeah, nearby. With a lot of parades to protest the Vietnam War, especially.
Yeah.
And my MFA advisor, John Bell, is a member of Bread and Puppet for quite some time. So, he's helping me through the process somewhat. Yeah.
By the way, in case you've joined us on the radio, we're talking today with Alyson Doyle. She is working on a program, and it's at the Arts Center East, which is at 709 Hartford Turnpike in Vernon, about 25 minutes from here. So the best thing to do, just jot down the website, and you'll have all the information all year long. artscentereast.org, and you'll find out about her project and many others that we'll be talking about in a minute. Maybe as an art aspect, you could talk about your design and what materials you used, and what was it like to assemble these these creatures.
Yeah, so part of it being like social justice oriented is using accessible materials that aren't expensive and that anyone can really use at home. So paper mache, a lot of cardboard, painting on cardboard. The mask that I brought with me is all paper mache today. Yeah, but I have experimented because of the stained glass window aspect. I've been experimenting with recreating those as well out of a combination of paper mache and acetate, different colors of acetate, and then painting on the acetate as well.
To have a little reflectivity as if it were glass, right?
Yeah, as if it were glass. And someone made his stained glass for him in different colors, and then he just painted on it with black paint. So to recreate that, that's pretty much what I'm doing. He just worked within the shapes of the stained glass as it existed.
Do you have any helpers or partners at the center that you want to acknowledge as part of your presentation when you put it all together?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm working with Melissa Carter, is our stage manager and co-director. Carrie Fowler is in the piece with me. We did a terrific piece in January for her MFA project, so she's returning the favor now and working on mine. It's sort of reciprocal that way. And then when it comes to the larger scale pageant in April, when it's outdoors, there'll be many students involved and some community members. I'm doing a lot of workshops in the community. There's
a real following out here, as long as people know about it. And that's a good time of the year. That's April 20th and 21st at UCONN in front of the Ballard Museum. And also music is part of this presentation. You want to talk about the musical aspects of this too?
Oh, yeah. So for the pageant, there is Nathaniel Seelan is a member of a very popular American klezmer band, and he's composing the music for the large scale. Some original music, some klezmer music, because Chagall was born in the Pale of Settlement, where klezmer was very popular. Okay. The violinist, the green violinist, he is filling in for him in this show. Very lively, and then I'm using some very old recorded material as well for some more poignant scenes with a little vinyl scratch in the center behind.
Got to have that scratch.
You got to have
it's a real
that.
Record.
That's a humanist thing, I think.
Well, the imperfection makes it perfect.
That's right.
I know, terrible joke. So anyway, March 15th and 16th at 7 o'clock, and then March 17th at 3 p.m., all ages, free for kids under 18. The whole thing is get young people in there, get it in their face, let them have a look at these things. The website is artcentereast.org, and we have just a minute or two left, and you had a couple of other things you wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Passing these along for Liz. The Artist Members Show opens on March 16th, and the Student Art Showcase of Vernon Public Schools opens on March 21st. And those are both featured on the website as well.
Right. And they have lots of workshops starting up now, so the best thing to do now is just go to the website, artcentereast.org. You can find out lots of things to do all year long. So, Alyson, I want to thank you for coming by. I wish you a great show and good success, and congratulations on all the hard work to get the MFA.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, well, we're going to head to the Arts at Eastern after a short musical break from James Taylor. Enjoy. Okay, we're on the home front here for our last segment today, and I'm very happy to be sharing the studio talking about a project coming up at Eastern as part of their wonderful arts program. It's called Unfolding, and sitting next to me is Margarita Blush. She is the director of the show. And we also have on the phone a faculty member from Eastern, Anya Sokolovskaya. She's an associate professor of theater, costume, and design in the Communication, Film, and Theater department. And she coordinates the fashion and costume design minor because costuming is a huge part of the show. And that is where you're here. Here you are. So thank you for being here, first of all. Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you for
And
having
I think
me.
we have Anya with us. Is she okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, John.
Greetings, Anya. Nice to have you with us today. So maybe, Anya, you could start briefly, if you'd like, to talk about the dates and how the faculty involvement has helped put the show together, and then we'll get to Margarita in just a second.
Well, as you mentioned, I designed costumes for Unfolding, and this happened a couple years ago. We worked together with Margarita and I've witnessed a beautiful process and beautiful show after, during that time. And, I wanted to bring this beautiful production to Eastern. And it's happening now during this month.
Right. There's some performances on Wednesday, March 27th, as well as Thursday, March 28th. And
yes.
It's in the Del Monte Bernstein Studio Theater, a really interesting space. Eastern got a wonderful gift several years ago, a brand new art school with fantastic facilities that they have really leveraged and utilized in so many ways to add technology and art with training and performance all together. It's a great place to go, and this should be a great show. And it's been all over the world. And it's part of what maybe you could talk about is how this theme and this message of unfolding is worldwide.
The show was inspired by my life as a woman, as a mother, as an artist, and I believe that is something that resonates with women, but also beyond women, with people all over the world.
Right.
And yes, we have taken it all over the world, and the reception has always been wonderful. And when women come after the show, in Indonesia, for example, after one of the shows, there was this little tiny woman, and her child had fallen asleep during the show because it was in the evening. She had it was a little boy, 6, 7 years old, or maybe 5, and she came to me, and there was a lot. For some reason, I was kind of alone on the side, and she just came to me and said, with tears in her eyes, "You made this show for me. You did this for me." And those are the kind of interactions that really resonate with people all around the world.
Right. In fact, I just want to read a little piece from the press release, because this says in a few words why you should be there, because it is a universal thing. It's a contemporary fairy tale that magically transports the audience through space and time, capturing the journey of a woman as she navigates a life of self-discovery. And like our previous segment, this involves puppetry, theater production, and other aspects. In fact, maybe you can mention the elements that are in the mix, and you've got many levels happening here all at the same time.
Yes, it's
pretty complicated.
Yes. Well, yes and no. On some level, it's rather simple, but we do have a very beautiful scene design, beautiful puppets. So the whole scenery kind of unfolds in front of the audience's eyes, just like the life of the protagonist. And we do have puppets. We have shadow imagery. As I said, a lot of things happen with the actual set. It continuously transforms throughout the show.
So there are projections, things of that nature?
Well, they are live. They're shadow.
Okay.
Yes, they're shadow theater made live projection. Well, they're not projections. They are
in the shadow.
Yes,
right.
In the shadow realm. And the show is nonverbal. There's only very few words, but there's music, which is really beautiful. It was composed for the show, and so a lot of elements come together to create the world of this performance.
And we only have 2 opportunities to check it out. How was it like to work with the Jim Henson Foundation? Because he's internationally a father of this music as well, and this whole form of art, I should say. So how was the foundation helping to enable you?
Well, actually, the foundation is different than the Jim Henson Company. Of course, it is. It has come from the legacy of Jim Henson.
Right.
And Cheryl Henson is the president of the Henson Foundation, and they have been supporters of my work, and it has been really and truly a blessing to have their support, not only for the creation of the show, which they supported with 2 grants, but also they funded in part our travel to Indonesia last year, well, actually 2 years ago now, almost a year and a half, with this very special grant, which is called the Alleluia Award, and it is given to one American puppet theater artist to take a show somewhere in the world and present internationally. So that was a fantastic honor that this...
Congratulations.
Yes. So without the Hanson Foundation, they're really crucial in funding, of course, my work, but also puppetry in the United States. And I'm deeply grateful to the foundation. And yes, they're fantastic. I love working with the Jim Hanson Foundation.
We have Anya on the phone with us as well. And Anya, maybe you could talk about how the presentation is a demonstration of the teaching and the practice that you provide in the program in terms of costume design and theatrical presentations, how your work is expressed through your students in these kinds of shows.
Well, this work particularly was very interesting, and it was interesting. It's always interesting to work on the shows that are conceptually deep and creating costumes that fit into the theme of self-discovery and unfolding in front of your eyes, right, of something important. And it was very interesting. So it's the design part. And also I made these costumes, and constructions of them was also very interesting and new to me, because Margarita was using Tyvek, the construction material, for pretty much everything: sceneries, costuming puppets, and costuming puppeteers as well. So my part was costumes for the puppeteers. And having done it in Eastern, and some students helped me with the work, it is really a learning curve for them.
Sure.
And I also want them to see how these costumes work in the performance, what it takes, to create costumes for the physical performance. This is all will be valuable to them, like on.
Oh, it's wonderful portfolio work. It's ways for them to get a real experience. So if they want to pursue afterwards, they already can walk in with some idea of the environment and how to travel. That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just want to mention that if you joined us on the radio, we're talking today about Eastern Arts and a performance of Unfolding, which is coming up on Wednesday, March 27th and Thursday, March 28th. And we have Anya Sokolovskaya from she's an associate professor of theater costume design at Eastern, as well as Margarita Blush from Margarita Blush Productions. Now, you've been here since 2013, 10 years. Congratulations on a whole decade. What things have you done, and where are you hoping to go after this one? What are your thoughts for the rest of the year or the next year, besides some recovery time to rest?
Well, I've been, in Connecticut since 2013. I came to teach at the University of Connecticut, but I left after 4 years, so I'm no longer at UConn. I stayed in the area, and I'm currently teaching actually at Skidmore College. I am here on my spring break. I'm also directing a production currently at Skidmore College, and I continue creating work. I am working on a new show, and I continue presenting work. I continue looking for opportunities to present my work nationally and internationally. I have been anywhere from, we opened actually Unfolding at the Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry in 2015, but we've presented in New York, and I perform internationally. So whatever comes next around the river bend, I always look to what is next. But I am currently creating a new show.
It's always great to have practitioners here to share stories and to show the process of growth and how it works. If you want to find out more about Margarita's work, just go to margaritablush.com. Since this has gone around the planet a few times, do you have any sense of parts of the program that get different reactions depending on the culture or, the geographic? I mean, they're all worlds together, but there are differences.
Yes.
What are the different reactions?
Yes, it's very interesting because there are themes that are accepted similarly around the world, but one of the biggest actually differences was when we performed in Indonesia, we started getting a question that we had never gotten before. So in our show, the protagonist at some point becomes a mom, becomes a mother, and she has a baby, and the baby cries, and then we assume that the baby is growing up to be a child. But in Indonesia, because it wasn't super clear, we had some images to suggest that the baby is now a older child, but they didn't quite understand, and they kept asking, what happened to the baby? Did the baby die?
Wow.
Is that why? Because our protagonist also goes through kind of like a midlife crisis, or a point in her life where she struggles to reconnect with her own self.
Right.
So they kept asking, is that why she got depressed? Did the baby die? So I had never anticipated that question. We had never had it before. So that was really interesting to me, and I was trying to figure out why. I cannot quite understand why, but it must be something in the culture, or I'm not sure. But that was something that was definitely different.
I think sometimes the fun is not always having a conclusion, but noticing the difference.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's enough sometimes.
Absolutely.
And the whole title unfolding is really interesting, because I think today sometimes male and female, the whole yin and the yang are often opposites, and they're put as if they're in contention. And I wonder, what would you say to any men that were there about their unfolding and their version of your experience, because they go through it too.
Well, and
whether they know it or not.
and once again, this is something interesting, because of course the show is from a female perspective, and I always say that it's also for anybody who has women in their lives, who has a mother or a daughter or a wife or a partner.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I have had different reactions. There are some men who have been close to receive the show.
Right.
So some guy in Bulgaria, actually, where I'm from, said at the end of the show, I didn't get it at all.
He was stressed about that. Yeah. Wow.
But then I had a younger generation person who came and said, oh my gosh, my wife and I go through this all the time because we have a young child, because there is a baby in the show that wakes them up, and they need to take care of the baby and all of that stuff. So yes, it's once again, it's a spectrum. There are people who love it, appreciate it, and people who don't get it.
Sounds like art to me.
Yes, it is.
That's it. But I'm very happy you're here today, and I wish you a great success again. Just want to mention again, these shows are going to be Wednesday, March 27th at 7:30, and Thursday the 28th at 5:30. And there'll be a talk back and a reception show afterwards on the 28th. You can have time to talk about it more and get to meet Margarita and kind of hang out for a while. And if you want to get tickets, just go to the easternct.showware.com. That's their main website for all of their events, and then /unfolding. So again, thank you for being here. I wish you a great year ahead, and hopefully we'll be back again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Alrighty.
you, John.
Okay, Anya, thank you very much, too. We'll look forward to having you back for the next gallery show coming up in the spring, and we wish you well. Thanks for helping to arrange this today.
My pleasure. Thank you, John, for having us.
All right, take care now. Be well. All righty,
Bye-bye.
so I think that's going to be our time to wrap up for this week. We'd love to have you in the studio. If you have a story to share, please use john@humanartsmedia.com, and we'll be happy to have you here. Thanks again for sharing some time. Keep the faith, and we'll see you next time.